Hi, this is Lou from Lou's Antiques and Collectibles, and today we're going to do another craft project. I seem to get more crafty as Christmas approaches. And as I said in the last video with the pumpkin screens, I have a ton of screens that I have bought at a barn sale, and I needed a use for them, so I made a bunch of pumpkins in that video, and now we're going to do snowmen today. And this is one of the little doors that I had that I've already done. So I'm going to show you how to do this, but on a bit of a smaller scale. Now the process to make a snowman on a screen is very similar to the video I just did on how to paint a pumpkin on a screen. So you want to start out with a covered area, and it needs to be plastic underneath because newspaper sticks to the back. A lot of this paint is going to fall right through this screen and it's going to make a big mess. So you want plastic, and you don't want anything to stick to it. So it's a little bit tougher for scale wise to do the snowman. You kind of want to make sure it's going to fit on the screen and not going to be too big or too tall or too short. So otherwise you got these big areas on the top, you don't know really what to do with that. Some people do writing and stuff on those things, but we're just going to do a basic snowman today. So what I do is kind of put a little post note here on how tall I want each of the circles of the snowman, so I have a kind of an idea where to start, so it's to scale. So I'll take a look at it. I'll put all three on here. This will be the head, and take a look at it and see. I think my bottom is a little bit too big. Well, maybe not. I'll pull them down all a little bit. So you kind of want to just give yourself a little guidance. And then we have to have room for the hat too. So that gives me a little guidance of where to make the circles. So I'm going to start with the circles next. Okay, so we're going to start to just do the outline of the snowman to kind of get an idea to see what it looks like scale wise. This is probably the hardest part. I know when I first started doing these, what I would do is cut out the shapes, the basic circle shapes with newspaper, and then I would lay it on there so I get an idea of scale. So if you're not good with eyeing this, you might want to do that. Just get an old newspaper, cut out the sizes you need, and then you can change them as you place them on the screen, and that works pretty good too. So being I've done a few of these, we're going to try it just doing it by freehand. Now I use what I have. Like I've said in the last video, I'm trying to do these on a budget. I got a lot of these screens at a barn sale. A lot of them were only $1. Some of them were a couple dollars, but for the most part they were really reasonable. So I use the brushes I have, and I use the paint that I have. And I have a lot of this craft paint. It's acrylic that seems to work the best, and then I usually do a spray covering over it. And I also use paper plates for the paint. That works really good for me. So let's give this a try. Hopefully we don't goof it up too much. And I am definitely not an artist. I do basic things, so we'll see. Okay, so we're going to just make a giant circle on the bottom for the bottom part of the snowman. And the nice thing about this, if you make a little mistake, it needs to be bigger. Not hard to do. So we're just going to make a basic shape here. Try to kind of match it on the other side. Now some of my snowmen I'm going to put some more fancier stuff in, but this is just going to be a real basic one for instructional purposes. Well, sometimes I'll do a fancy one and it doesn't turn out exactly how I want either, and you have to adapt and maybe make it something else. Like that one artist says, there's no mistakes, just birds. I think that's what he says. That's what you have to do with these. There's no really mistakes. You just have to make it work in another way. Okay, so we're going to do our circle up here. It looks pretty good to fit the screen, and then we're going to do the head up here. Hopefully it doesn't look too odd. So if you can make 3 circles, you can do this. Okay, so there's our basic outline. That'll give us kind of where to start. So for the next step of the snowman, I typically use house paint brushes like these two. They seem to work the best. And what's so funny about this is you wouldn't think you would see this, but on these screens you can actually tell the brush strokes in which direction they're going. So when you do the snowman, I typically start in the middle with a little circle, and I just paint circles around it like this. And if you just fill it all in, it just doesn't look as good. I don't know, it just looks better when you have circles, so it looks more snow-like, I guess. I'm not sure the wording of that, but anyways, so we're just gonna make some circles. And with this screen painting, you have to use a lot of paint. A lot of it's wasted. It depends on the mesh of the paint and how much of it's gonna fall through. This doesn't seem as bad as the pumpkin ones I did. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep doing this and make all the strokes and go around in circles. So I got the bottom of the snowman done, and I swirled it around like I showed you with the bigger brush like this. I just kept making circles and circles, and it kind of shows your strokes somewhat, or at least the directions of your strokes on these screens. Now and again, you have to do this something very careful. If you look at the bottom of your screen, it looks really drippy. So now and then you have to take your brush and kind of go over that bottom section to get all those drips off. So the hard thing is to put the screen exactly kind of back where it was. You don't want the paint from the underneath to get up there and make a big blotch of white in the middle of the screen, although you could turn that into a snowflake and that works pretty good too. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same process with the middle and the top. I'm going to wait on the top because I'm not sure if I'm going to put a hat on him or not, because I don't want to paint over the white and have it get all mixed up mess. So we'll see what I'm going to do here. But the same process, you start in the middle or start on the outside and start going in circles until you fill it all in. And you usually have to do quite a lot of coats. I mean, sometimes it's 5 or 6 coats to really get it so it looks right, because what happens is when you lift the screen up, it seems really dark on the table, but when you lift it up, it gets really light and it's hard to see your image. So you have to do quite a few coats to get it right. So I'm going to fill in those section there, and then we'll move on to the head and possibly a hat. I'm not sure what I'm going to put on him. So we have our 3 basic circle shapes already filled in with the white, and now I'm going to add a little bit of dimension to this. So what I'm doing is I'm going to put just a little dot of black in with my white to make it gray, and I'm going to go ahead and go around the outside of each of the circles of the snowman, and I'll kind of blend it in as I go, just to give it a little bit more dimension. Now, I'm certainly not no artist. I'm sure a lot of people could do a better job than I could. I kind of get inspired by just looking at pictures from other people. I'm not really good with always coming up with my own ideas. I use Pinterest a lot. There's a lot of wonderful artists on Pinterest that give you lots of ideas. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around each of these circles and kind of blend in with the gray to give the snowman a little bit of dimension. So I'll go ahead and do that. Here's a bit of a tip. When you're doing the shading on the snowman, you want each of the circles to look like they're sitting on top of each other. So usually what you do is the one on top of the other one, you would swirl around this direction so it looks like it's overlapping the bottom one. So I might have went up to here, but then I stopped with my shading so this one looks like it's overlapping. And the same thing with the face. You want to take your darker color and make sure it looks like it's overlapping the snowman circle below it, so it looks like it's stacked. We have all our shading done on our pumpkin, and now we have to make some eyes, mouth, and some buttons. And for the buttons, I want them to be pretty good size, so I'm going to use my stencil brush. I'm not one to wash out my brushes between colors. I'm kind of on the lazy side, but when you're going to black from white, it's not a big deal. So I'm just going to get the ends black. And what I do when I do the buttons is I'll do the middle first, go right in the middle, and I just take the brush and make a little swirl. And there's our first button. It looks like it needs to be a little darker, so we'll put a little bit more on that. Just like that. And I usually put 3 buttons on them. Just seems to look more balanced. And I'll put one above, like this, and one below, just like that. And they don't have to be perfect. They can kind of be a little bit off and they look fine. It's a snowman. A snowman doesn't look perfect. Now for my eyes, I want them to be a little bit oblong, a little bit more oval. So I'm going to use a different brush. I'm going to use this little craft brush. You can use what you want. I mean, I'm using what I have. So there's no great science in this or anything. I'm just doing what I think will work. So I'm going to make just this line first, where I kind of want to place the eyes. More black there. Now that when you're doing the head, you really want to make sure you got a lot of white paint on it, because otherwise your facial features won't show as good. So we're going to do the eyes like that. And I'm going to make them a little bit more like an oval. There's our eyes. I'll darken those up. And then we're going to do the mouth. Now we're going to do the mouth, the snowman. So I usually use, it seems like if you use odd numbers, it works better. Like with the buttons I did 3. With the mouth I'm going to do 7. So I'm going to put the center one right at the beginning of the mouth. And I'm just going to take my paint and do a little swirl with it to make a nice circle. And then I'll put 3 on each side. So it looks relatively balanced. We'll see. You know, good thing about a snowman is it doesn't have to be perfect. It's a snowman. Snowmen are not perfect. I might only need 5 dots. We'll see what this looks like. But if you put the one in the center first, then your smile won't be maybe as crooked. Sometimes it still is, but you have some sort of guidance. I guess he's got a little bit of a small face. So we're just going to put 5 on there for him. I think 7 would probably be a little bit. I usually do that more with the bigger ones. So there we go. So there's our face of our snowman. Now I'm going to show you how to do the carrot nose. Now I'm going to show you how I paint the carrot on the nose. I'm probably the messiest painter around, so you're going to see paint all over my hand. It never fails. I always seem to get paint everywhere no matter what I do, so I always have to wear really old clothes. And thank goodness we're outside. Here in Michigan, we're having one of the most warmest Octobers I think we've had in years. It's literally 80 degrees out here and we're in the middle of October. So it's great because it gives me some time to finish my projects. So if you can make a backwards C, you can make a carrot nose. So what you do is you start with a backwards C, like this. And then you just build on it with more backward C's. But they get smaller as you go. So there's my first one. We gotta darken them up a little bit. So I'm just gonna continue, and you kinda wanna know what direction you want your nose to go. If you wanted it to be level, if you want it to go upright a little bit, I kinda want mine to go upright a little bit. So I'm gonna start angling in that direction. And you can see my backwards C's are getting smaller and smaller as I go, until I get a long enough nose to look like a carrot. Sometimes you have to go back over the old ones just to make them a little bigger. This is pretty forgiving. If you think that the ones before need to be a little bigger, you just go back and make your backwards C a little bit bigger. So I'll keep going here until I can make a tip on them. And that looks about right. Now what I'm going to do is go back to the bottom and kind of fill in this backwards C. So that is how you make your carrot nose. Pretty easy. The snowman's face is all done. He's starting to look pretty good. All his shading is done. I think I'm going to skip the hat on him. Sometimes I put a hat on him. Sometimes I put his earmuffs on him. It depends on my mood. But I saw something on Pinterest where they used a lot of snowflakes around their snowman and a lot of swirling patterns. And I thought, I think I'm going to try that this time. So we're going to keep the snowman pretty basic for this one. So I need to put arms on him. So arms are just sticks, and I want to look like he's saying, hooray, it's snowing. So I'm going to make his arms kind of go up in the air. So I'm going to do it real lightly first, kind of get what I want to do here. So we're going to put one arm here. And like I said, they're just sticks. So they don't have, there's no precision involved here. Just as long as you can make a line, you can make an arm for a snowman. So here's one of the arms. And we're going to stretch it out a little bit. I don't want his arms to be too short. His body kind of got a little fatter as I went. So at the end of the arm, I'm just going to make it like at the end of a twig. So what I'm going to do is just make a line go like this and one like this. So I'm going to darken that in, and that will be my arms, and I'm going to make one on the other side, the same type of thing. Maybe the angle will be a bit different just to keep it interesting. We have our arms done, and the left one turned out a little fatter than the right one, so I had to go back to the right one and make that one a little fatter to kind of match. But our arms are all done, and now we're going to do the background. I looked at a lot of different ones on Pinterest, and I saw some ideas that I thought were really nice. Of course, theirs were much more precise than what I'm going to do here, but the idea is kind of the same. So I think I'm going to just make some swirls, and then I'm going to make some snowflakes. So I'm going to start, maybe over here, and I'm just going to make a swirl pattern. So I'm just going to start like this, and I'm going to do it light first, and then I'll darken it in. And I'm just going to take my brush and make a little swirl, kind of like the snow is blowing in the wind. So we'll have flakes and we'll have wind with our snow. So I'm gonna keep swirling around this center like this. Maybe go one more time around. You could run into the snowman if you need to, that's no big deal. And I'll do it light, and then I'll darken it up. And I'm just going to swirl back around like this. So the snow looks like it's swirling in the wind. Now I just kind of eye this to space it. You can do it how you want. You may want to lay out a pattern just with the shapes so you kind of know where you're going to go with this. I just kind of look at it and say, oh, it looks balanced or it doesn't look balanced. Everybody has their own way of doing things. So I'm going to make a bunch of these swirls like this, and then I'm going to add some snowflakes. We have our swirls done. I just ended up doing 3. It's not a huge screen, so I thought 3 was enough because I'm going to be doing a lot of snowflakes next. I'm going to show you how to make the most simple snowflake you probably can make. And I'm probably going to do some bigger ones and then do some just dots of snow. So you just start by making a cross. The thing with these lines and these swirls, you have to paint them. You feel like you're painting this thing 5 times by the time you're done, because you have to keep going over it to get enough paint on the screen. So they're very time consuming. It's not hard, it's just time consuming, and you have to have patience. So I start with a cross, like so. And even though it looks really simple right here, it does look nice from afar. And then I just put an X over it. And there's a basic snowflake for you. And I've seen much fancier ones on Pinterest from the artists there. They do quite a nice job, but this is going to be simple. It's supposed to be primitive looking. And then I'm going to add in also just some little dots of snow. So I'll just take my brush and I swirl it around in a circle like this, just to get little dots of snow. And when my arms of my snowman dry, I'm going to put some snow in each of their arms too. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of this and show you what we got. I have filled in now with all of my swirling snow and my snowflakes. And I put a little bit of snow in his arm over here, and I want to show you how I did that on this arm. So it's essentially the same thing as making the round snowflakes. You just take your brush, make it swirl around, do a little circle there, maybe put a couple, 2, 3. So he looks like he's got some right in his hand. Maybe I'll even put a little one up here. Okay. So our painting is essentially done. But we need a little color, so I'm going to add a scarf on him. So you could paint a scarf if you want to, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. It's much easier than trying to paint it. Here's our one that we've done previously, and all I did was take some ribbon and put it on for a scarf. And what I did, I'll show you the back of it, is I took some floral wire that I had, some real thin wire, and I just connected it at the spots that it needed to be like tied and hooked that ribbon on. So I don't know if you can see it, it's mighty thin, this floral wire, but you can use whatever size will fit through your screen. So that way you can attach the ribbon onto the snowman's neck. And it looks really nice. I think it looks a little bit better than painting one, but you know, you have to do what you would like the best. And even at the top, I need to straighten this out a bit, I put a little bow on the top to kind of coordinate with this one got a little bit smashed from the last show. Anyways, from the scarf, so that's a little bit of a coordinated ribbon. So that's how I'm going to do my ribbon. So what I'm going to do now is let all of this dry, and if I need to go over anything or if I need to go on the back to get the drips off, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Sometimes when you set it more upright, it looks very translucent and a little bit more than you want it to be. It's hard to tell until you're done with it and how it's going to completely look. So sometimes I have to do another coat of something or another when I lift it up. And then I definitely have to do the back because I don't want any drips to ruin it. So if they drip down into an area where there's no paint. So I'm going to do that now. Then I'll show you how to put the scarf on. So this is what the plastic underneath looks like when you pick it up. It's a big mess. You have to use fresh plastic to do another one. So in fact, I even got a little bit on the table. I'm gonna have to wipe off pretty quickly here. But so when you're using the plastic underneath it, figure it's gonna be trash. There's no point in keeping it. It's too big of a mess. It'll come off onto your next screen and make all kinds of marks on it. So we have our screen drying over here in the sun, and it is so hot here today that it actually stuck a little bit to the plastic, which I've never had happen. But I took my brush and I went along the back and it was fine. So if you have really hot temperatures, you might want to do this in the shade so that doesn't happen. Like I said, we're in Michigan. We never have 80-degree days in October. It's absolutely crazy. So a good thing to find out. So we'll be getting the ribbon next. So we're going to put the scarf on him, and what I just use is ribbon. So I cut a fairly long piece of ribbon, and I'm going to just take some wire and hook it here and then hook it at the other side of the neck. And floral wire works pretty good, or I have just some jewelry wire, which I don't even know if you can see it. It's so thin. I use what I have. So that's what I have, and it's going to work just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll attach that to the neck right here at that point on the left and where my finger is on the right. So I'll go ahead and do that. You can see what that looks like. As you can see, I've attached my ribbon, and what I did is I just cut some little angle cuts at the end here. Now typically I put a clear coat a sealer over this, and I haven't done it yet, so I'll have to probably pull off my scarf to do that. But I wanted to show you it pretty much completed. Now if you look at the back, it's still a little bit damp even. I don't know if you can see it, but I just have just plain knots in the back with this jewelry wire. You can use any kind of wire that'll fit through the screen. They'll need to be snipped. So I'll just take the ends and I will snip them off a little bit so they're not so long. And there is our scarf, which I think looks a little nicer than oops, I can't seem to snip that one. Probably can't even see it, it's so hair thin. So I think it's a little bit nicer than painting one. It looks a little nicer than me trying to paint one, but you can paint one too, and that will work. So here's our snowman. Let's go put it by the white door so you can see what it looks like. Here is our completed snowman. He's ready to go. Sometimes I put hats or earmuffs on him, but this one looked just nice plain. And he's all ready to go to the next show or to one of my antique malls. And we'll see if we can sell them. I did sell at the last show 2 giant snowman doors and a Santa Claus that I had painted with really swirly beard, kind of similar to the swirls in this one. So I'll show you a few more samples here of some other items I have. So here's another screen I did. I did a Christmas tree and put the snowflakes around it, and really simple to do. I'm just going to show you with my dry brush. You just start at the top and make J's, backwards J's and forward J's. And you start at the top and you move your way down, very easy. And you start with dark green first, then you add layers with a lighter green, and then I use the white for the highlights. So the tree is very easy to do. Now, when I made this tree, I thought, oh, this would be cool. I could put real ornaments on here. So I tried plastic ones, but I thought, oh, for sure, glass ones are going to get broken. And I put it outside, and we have a lot of wind in Michigan, and it knocked it over. Even when I had it propped up just so, it knocked it over several times. The ornaments cracked and they broke, and it was a big mess. So it's good to try out your products a little bit first, especially if they're going to go outside in the porch. It's good to try it on your own porch. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to go back and I'm just going to paint some colored ornaments on here, and then I don't have to worry about the other ones cracking up. Now the bow seemed to make it. The bow was fine, it looks still perfect, but the ornaments looked real pretty, but not very good. So I'm going to go ahead and paint those now. I'm going to make a Christmas ornament just like I make the snowflakes. I'm going to use a little bit bigger brush. I got my red over here. I'll start with red. I think I got 3 or 4 colors I can probably use. And I'm just going to interdisperse them all over the place. I'm going to put the brush on top and just make a little swirl. It makes a pretty perfect circle. And this tree has been dried long ago, so I don't have to worry about the paint getting mixed up with the green. Put another one maybe here. Just twirl our brush around in a circle very carefully. Maybe one in the middle. And then I'm going to put these throughout the tree, and then I'm going to repeat this process with all my other colors. Here is our 2 snowman projects completed and ready to go to either the antique mall or to one of the shows that I'm going to be doing in the future. If you like what you see and you want to see more of it, hit the like button, ring the bell, and please subscribe to our channel. Now I gave you a little touch of doing a Christmas tree, so if anybody's interested in the process of doing one of these Christmas trees, shoot me out a comment. And if I get lots of comments, then I'll go ahead and do this one also for you. This is really a simple project to do. Lots of fun and really easy. Like I said, I do lots of primitive type pictures. I'm not no big artist. So I do things that are real simple and easy. And it's a good way to use those old screens that you have laying around your house. And for now, this is Lou from Lou's Antiques saying goodbye and have a good day.